Hi everyone, welcome back to the Skating Beyond Stereotypes podcast hosted by yours truly, Lane Dubin. I am so excited for today's guest. Her name is Kirsty Webb. She is an adult Australian figure skater and she is such a badass. I already knew that from the vibes I was getting from her on social media, but to chat with her in person, she has so much courage, bravery, and has just so much persistence and a love for skating, and it was so amazing to be able to chat with her. And I hope that you guys are able to feel the energy and the passion through the screen that we all have for figure skating. And I'm just really excited to dive into this conversation that we're about to have today. So let's get into it. Hi everyone, I'm so happy to have you here on my podcast today, Skating Beyond Stereotypes. Today I have the amazing Kirsty Webb here, and she is from Australia, and she's an Australian figure skater and also an adult figure skater. And we're just going to kind of talk about the competition community in figure skating and kind of go from there and talk about her personal experience, because I know she has plenty. So let's just get right into it. So I actually know you from social media. That's where we first met. And this is our first time officially having a conversation together that's not over DM. So the first thing I want to ask you about is I saw your pin post on your socials right now that's about creating a bully-free environment with the Front campaign and how you endorse that for the sport of figure skating. So I'm wondering kind of how that ties in with figure skating and what you kind of see yourself with that project.
For me, I struggled quite a lot with bullying within the sport. As an adult, and an adult who's on the curvier side, it's been really hard to find my place, as welcoming as the adult community is. I think the catalyst for me was I went to my first international competition in January this year to New Zealand, and I'm from Adelaide, so a very small, tight-knit skating community as it is. We're like the smallest city in the country. There were 20 other skaters there from Adelaide, most of whom I had skated synchronized skating with previously. And there were rude comments made in front of me about me throughout this experience. This is my first international comp as an adult. Like, this is exciting for me. And then when I skated, not one person who I thought was a friend or a good acquaintance actually cheered for me. There was only one coach who went over, who was supportive. The skaters just didn't care, didn't acknowledge my existence. I could have heard a pin drop in that rink for both my routines. And I think that was the catalyst. Like, I left at the end of the second day and I was in tears. And if you go back on my socials far enough, you will see that post where I outline all of that. And
Yeah.
I think that's when the Front campaign started, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but the lady who started that, Celeste, is actually an adult figure skater from Australia as well.
I did not know that, no.
So I'm not going to tell her story for her, but she's from West Australia, and she was bullied quite severely, and that's where the Front campaign actually started.
Wow. That's crazy. I thought that it was just like a bully-free sports and it started in like some other sport that wasn't figure skating. So
It started adult figure skating in Australia.
Interesting. Yeah.
Figure skating here at the moment. I don't know if you've seen the headlines with Brendan Carey being found by US safe sport of sexual assault allegations. So figure skating has blown up, and not in a good way, in Australia at the moment. But one of the biggest things that is coming out of it is just how toxic the adult figure skating community can be. Even though on the surface we're all like, hey, we're adults, we all love each other, we're here to support each other, you're just starting to hear all these stories come out of how people have been bullied. I mean, I was bullied out of my state association, and I actually skated for a different state to what I live in.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. How has that transition been for you? Amazing. Yeah, I heard that you're skating with Victoria right now and you love it. Yeah.
I do. And one of my friends followed me and she's had the same experience as I did, and we couldn't be happier.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What Was there anything besides the cheering that kind of cut deeper for you? Like anything else that was unsupportive? That was maybe not so like in your face, like
Yeah.
like more it's things that were subtle that you could kind of like imply other things and notions of people.
I was on the synchro team, and I'm going to point out the synchro team as a whole, not everyone on that was awful to me, and I get along with a lot of the girls on the team, but there is a core group of about 3 or 4 that are just really quite toxic. I don't know how else to describe it. So I was on the team. They would go to a quiz night every week before practice, and I went with them for weeks. And there was one, this is going to sound so stupid, and it is stupid. There was a question in the quiz night about show jumping in equestrian, which I knew the answer to. So I said, oh, here's the answer. And this one girl has gone, no, you're wrong. They put her answer in and it was wrong. And she turned around, how do you know that? Like in quite a nasty tone. And then from that point onwards, every time I'd show up to the quiz night that I'd been going to for weeks, oh, we don't have enough seats at the table now. We don't have enough seats at the table. So I'd end up going and sleeping in my car at the rink before synchro practice because it was at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And I mean, it sounds so petty, but there was just socializing as well. They would socialize and exclude other team members. They would go out and do things, post it all over the social medias, even the team social medias, but there would be members constantly excluded from those posts.
Interesting. That I can't even comprehend how not a good situation that does sound that you were put in. But now you're in a better place, I hope. So kind of on a lighter note, so I'm assuming skating makes you happy. That's why you keep doing it. So how have you maintained this mindset, especially from all the toxicity that you were involved in?
Honestly, a good friend. One good friend who I loved bits, and I met through skating. I mean, this will go to show how small Adelaide is. I met her husband through work. She was one of my first coaches, and I had no idea they were married until a couple of years later.
Oh,
and
that's so cute.
2 of them, probably 2 of my favorite people in the world outside of my partner.
Wow.
So her and sport, I wouldn't have been able to stay in the sport.
Wow. I'm curious what your outlook on like body diversity and body representation is in Australian figure skating. What you saw from your old club compared to your new club, and kind of how you see yourself in a body image way from before and now.
I think from a body image point of view, it's exactly the same. The only difference is the adults in Victoria are far more welcoming regardless. There's another girl in Australia who's, on the curvier side of skating, and we're in the same division and we get along really well. And I said to her, one of the comps we've been at this year, do you think we've ever been penalised by judges because we're not in Australia, size 6s would be like size 0 to America. We're not these stick figures that you see at the Olympics or in the children coming up through the competitive stream. And yet I honestly believe that Australia-wide, we do get penalised for being curvier because we don't have the skinny legs, we don't have the really beautiful extensions, because we have the thicker thighs.
Yeah.
Jump as high, so we lose out on GOE because we don't jump as high. And it is felt regardless of where I go within Australia. But I think it's a judging, not a culture issue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you think that mindset can consume you a little bit too much on certain days, or?
Yeah. All my dresses I get custom made. Yeah. I get full length. I get longer skirts, and I always wear black tights because the full length sleeve covers my arms the longer skirt covers my thicker thighs. The black tights they're just a bit more slimming. And I do take that into account when I'm looking at dress designs.
Definitely. I think that black tights look a lot more badass than your traditional ones anyway. So I prefer that. I always prefer the catsuit kind of thing. The things that go against the like natural grain of what most skaters are doing anyway. So I love that look. That was one of the things that honestly like attracted me to your account, is because you had so much like black and you were wearing the black tights and it was so badass, and I'm like, oh, this is a badass woman, like I have to follow her, because like not only because of other things, because she's a skater, but definitely because she makes a statement on the ice. And it feels, even just from the photos alone from your competitions, it feels so like I can feel like your confidence exuding from them. So like it was very much feeling that from you.
I think the photos that I post on social media are from my competitions in Victoria, because they get professional photographers in for every competition. So I buy those photos. I have photos from comps in Adelaide, but you can see the confidence level is just not there. Like when I step on the ice in Melbourne, I feel at home. Like I don't feel scared. I'm not nervous. I don't care what the judges think in Melbourne. I don't care what anyone thinks. I step on the ice in Adelaide and I fall to pieces. And I think because I did get bullied out from skating from Adelaide, I still live, I still train here, so I still compete here, but it's so much harder.
Wow, that's crazy. It's crazy how much just like an environment shift can change absolutely everything, even for that like minute to 2 minutes that you're on the ice for, especially still as an adult. My next question for you is, can you share some strategies on how you build your confidence and staying focused for competition, and like your goals that you have for yourself at competitions?
So this is something that I've only gotten really good at in the last 18 months to 2 years. I connected with a coach in Melbourne, my first competition over there, and we do a lot of off-ice work together, and a lot of it is around mental health and mental well-being and leading up to competitions. So she's trained me very, very well to go, okay, I'm going into the competition. I want to get this element scored. That's it. So at the moment, my program consists of a Lutz, a camel spin, a Salchow toe loop combination, a loop jump, and a scratch spin, because I'm an adult bronze skater, so that's all that's in there, and a choreo sequence. So my last competition in June, the goal was to increase my score on my choreo sequence, which we did. The competition before that, it was to land my Lutz and get that marked, which I did not do, but I did it in June. So I go into each competition going, I want to land this element clean. I want to get this on the scorecard. I want to get this one on the scorecard. So that's where my focus is. It isn't on the whole routine. Oh, sorry. I had a chest infection all week, so I do apologize.
Okay.
The next thing she's taught me is, once you do an element, move on to the next one. Even if it was the worst you've ever done, it doesn't matter. It's done.
Really hard. That's really hard to do.
It is, but we've worked really hard on it, and I'm actually getting really good at it. So that is probably the biggest thing I'm finding confidence from, is focusing on getting individual elements scored or scored better, and then learning to move on. Once you've done one, move on to the next one.
Wow, that's great. I don't have a coach at the moment, so whenever I hear someone that's so focused, it's very nice to see, very nice to hear, and it sounds like it's going great for you right now. And was that all from one coach that you have?
So I've got my head coach in Adelaide. So she does my choreo, she does everything. I train with her weekly. I try and get 2 lessons in a week, but I'm currently a shift worker, so it's quite difficult to skate consistently. Just give me 1 second, sorry. Okay. the mental health side of things, that comes through just Facebook messages and video chats like this with my coach in Melbourne. And then when I'm in Melbourne, I will do lessons with her, like on ice lessons with her when I'm over there for either skating or just a holiday.
Cool. I'm wondering if you could just expand a little bit more on like just how nice it is and kind of like your thoughts on having a coach that's very supportive, because I also know that I've seen on social media that you have a lot of appreciation for your coach, and I'm curious like what kind of impact, if you could delve more into what kind of impact it has not only on your performance at competitions but also just like your well-being.
I think as an adult, it's different. It's a different relationship than if you're a kid coming up through the competitive streams of figure skating. So my coaches are, yeah, they're my coaches. I pay them to do a job, but I look at them as friends and I talk to them as friends. So my head coach, Teresa, is an absolute gem. And what I love about her the most is she calls me on everything. If I have a bad skate, she doesn't tell me it was good. She goes, what did you do this for? What did you do that for? It's like I've got, and then Kerry Lee, on the other hand, is very much, that was amazing. Now let's go work on this. So I'm getting the best of both worlds with them. I'm getting this coach who, Teresa, when I get positive feedback from her, I know I've really earned it. So it is so much more special because it's rare. But Kerry Lee offers this almost lovely, homey feeling of this is a coach who is going to support me. It's just it is different. And I love both aspects. And I think people just need to find a coach that works for them. And I think they need to not be scared to change coaches or try new coaches until they get that relationship. And I never skated as a kid, so I don't know what it's like, but I do see the relationship on the ice with children and their coaches. It is very, very different. It's very much like, yes, not sir or ma'am, but they don't call them by their first names. It's more formal than I think as an adult. I think we need to learn to accept that we are going to talk to them as equals, and we really need to find personalities that mesh well together.
Yeah, definitely. That's so well put. I know that since I've been skating since a kid, it was really tough for me to ever try to change coaches, because it's like, do I put myself first? Or it's kind of like when you are thinking about breaking up with a hairstylist kind of thing, like the person you always go to and you're like, oh my god, we like break up with her. So I kind of feel like that. So it's very interesting from a perspective of someone that didn't skate as a child, and kind of once you brought that up, I'm curious, do you feel like you missed out on anything from not skating as a child, or do you feel like you're very happy with where you're at right now?
Oh, definitely. I wanted to skate as a child. My family just weren't in a position financially to support that. I mean, let's be honest, it's Australia. We've never had an Olympic medalist in figure. Never had a world champion medalist in figure skating. It's not a sport that's overly common. We've got one rink that is literally falling down around our ears in this city. It just wasn't an option for me. I instead had horses, which some might say is more entitled or more lucky, but the love for figure skating has been there for me since I remember watching, the 98 Olympics. I was 7 and falling in love with the sport back then. So when I was 18 and I finished high school and I got a job, I can go learn to skate.
Yeah.
So I'm glad the journey has been as an adult. I'm 33 now. I haven't skated that whole time. I took a chunk of time off. I did it for a few years, took several years off, and I came back. It gives me somewhere to be happy. And I think this is where mental health comes into it as well for me. And you're saying that, does it make me happy? And the fact that you think I'm some badass, strong woman in those competitions is, oh my God. What a lot of people don't realize, and I talk about it openly on my private socials, is that in all of 2023 and most of 2022, I was on antidepressants and anxiety medication because of an issue outside of skating, and skating was my one safe place. it was the place that I could go and just be happy. And that's what it does for me now. So in one aspect, I'm so disappointed I missed out on it as a child, because I would be a far better skater now than, if I had that opportunity. But I'm glad I found it as an adult, because it has given me something special that is mine, and no one can take that away from me. And I skate for me. I don't skate because my parents want me to or a coach wants me to. I go to the rink because I want to.
Oh my god, that's like literally like made me cry. But that's it's so inspirational to hear that, especially as someone who is also currently on antidepressants, of things unrelated to skating. But for me personally, it has trickled into skating, and it's so nice to hear that there are people out there like yourself. I know for plenty of other people as well, that there is that one place that they can just zone out, and it's amazing, and they can just, all the thoughts disappear, and they can just be on the ice and just have a little bit of freedom like that. So I'm so happy that you're able to find that.
And I don't think we think about the connection to mental health enough as adults, because you're right. There are so many adults out there that have got diagnosed depression or anxiety or other mental health illnesses that they're medicated for. And we need to talk about it more often.
Yeah, definitely.
And we finding our spot in the world that makes us happy. And for me, that's skating. And it sounds like for you, it's similar as well.
Yeah.
But we need to find that spot.
Yeah, and it's not always easier said than done, because your head is like, I think for most sports, it can be like maybe a 50-50 of mental and physical ability to get you through a competition. But then there's those other days or it's those practices, it's the things that you see behind the scenes that are like 75% mental, maybe 25 physical that day. So there's definitely a huge mental health conversation to be had, especially surrounding figure skating, and especially on the topic like this where we're talking about body diversity and body image, because I'm thinking another aspect that was nice to not have as a child was potentially the toxic environment of your home club when you were a child, and not as an adult with more mature thoughts. Like, I can only imagine what that would be like as an actual kid back then.
I think I see a lot. I'm almost the wallflower at the rink as well. Like, I'll sit back and I observe, and I hear coaches screaming at children for having a lolly before or after a session because, they can't put on weight. They need to watch their weight. And what really scares me in this sport, and we've seen it before and we've seen people talk about it, I think off the top of my head, Gracie Gold came out about this as well, is eating disorders. Yes. And sport almost encourages eating disorders in children that are looking at going to that elite level. And it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, I've had coaches that I know well, not my personal coaches, but like ones that I know well enough to have a conversation with them. We might go to social events together, go, oh, Kirsty, you really should look at losing weight. It'll make your skating easier. That's the most I've received. But I've heard those same coaches tell children that are 6 that they need to watch their weight. And I see the damage that is being done to young children and the issues that can cause, and the very real issues that can cause.
Yeah, it's it's especially with the elite, but I feel like it might just be my personal experience, but it's so different in the United States. And you can even see it all the way up to like Olympic level and the elite level. I know it was happening with Gracie Gold, and it does happen on the elite level track, but there's also, I think, just as much of the bad stuff, there's just as much of the good stuff in the United States specifically, where
I would agree.
Yeah, where like people like myself have never heard anything, have never been told anything by any coach, have never overheard anything like so not kind, for lack of a better word right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially as someone in a bigger body. But yeah, there's definitely a conversation to be had about the younger elite people, and there is also a reason why I was talking to why. You'll see when these episodes come out, but all of the people that I chose for my guests on here are all adults, just because thoughts are more developed and conversations are more mature, and don't really think that it's great asking young people such questions like that, like such personal questions that might be a little bit invasive, especially on their growing bodies when they care so much about what other people think of them and all that kind of stuff. There's just so much that goes into just being alive as like a teenager or as a young kid, and then you have to throw skating into the mix. You have to throw everyone's expectations and pressure on you. It's definitely a little bit insane at younger levels and younger ages. Yeah. I was talking to another guest on this podcast on another episode about she was kind of talking about teenagers and how like the teenagers at her rink were very like supportive, and she kind of found like comfort in all them because the majority of them are at rinks probably are high school level-ish. So I'm wondering if the competitive skating community, if there's any perceptions or misconceptions that heavily influence your mental health, and how you kind of navigate anything like that within the community.
Not really. I mean, one of the things I've done very well is make it very clear that I'm not, without being rude or nasty about it, is I'm very clear who I will and won't socialize with. So I choose not to socialize with those teenagers who are more inclined to be nasty or exclusionary within the sport. I would agree with your other guests that some of the teenagers at my rink can be absolutely amazing. I remember one day I was struggling with my LUTs, and this girl came up, and she was 13 at the time, and she's the sweetest little thing. She's come up and she said, "Kirsty, can I give you some advice?" And I'm like, "Please, please help me." And she's like, "Well, if you try this, that might really help." So I did, and it helped. And I got chatting to her, and I said, "Oh, what are you working on today?" She said, "I'm trying to do this, but I'm not landing it." I said, "I've seen you land it. Go and give it a shot." So there are kids out there that are really, really good and really supportive. And I say kids because I'm so much older than all of them. I'm double the age of most of these people. But in reality, they are 14 and up now. So there are really good ones out there. The ones who are more inclined to be on the negative or toxic side, I just don't have anything to do with.
Yeah, you're just old enough that you have that character judgment that you can, especially being an observer. I'm also an observer myself, so I'm always the one that sits back and is always observing people and feeling out the vibes before, and I'm usually not the person to approach other people. They'll like approach me first. So I can definitely see how that works out perfectly for you and finding the right people for you to bring into your life for conversations like that.
And I think too, you said it earlier, I am older, so it's easier for me to, I've got 15 plus years experience on this than these kids do. I get along with some of the mums really well, but it's easier for me to sit back and go, okay, I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you, and not be rude about it. It's not like we're 15 and in high school and arguing over who's going to date this boy. It's not like that anymore. It's just a simple yes, no.
Yeah. I love that about being an adult. I don't have to put up with any of the bullshit from some of the younger people sometimes. Just in general, not just in skating, but
awful place for some of them.
You recently achieved a personal best back in June 2024. How has your own experience in competitions changed kind of how you approach body diversity and body image over your competition times,
That sure, I came dead last in my division as well.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
How many people?
So,
How many people were competing though?
12.
Okay. Okay.
So, and in Australia, we're really, really poor at age divisioning adult divisions. So
Oh,
age
okay.
from like 20 to 50s. So it was so little fun fact on that one. I'm most proud of that skate. But how have I improved on my body image
Yeah.
perception?
Yeah, up until this personal best. And did you feel like at the height of confidence in like once you got that? Because now you're saying that you got dead last. So like was there like was it a double edged sword where like there was good feelings and bad feelings?
Not really, no. I'm going to bring you into my mind a little bit the week before that competition. So I've driven over to Melbourne. It's a 8-9 hour drive from Adelaide. I did it with a friend, so it ended up being closer to 12.
Yeah.
I had a really bad run up to it with illness, my coach being overseas for another student skating in Mexico. I think I had 1 or 2 private lessons in Adelaide in the 5 weeks leading up to that competition. And then I got to Melbourne and I got on the ice in a practice session and I did a run through and then I just burst into tears. And I was so close to withdrawing because I felt so defeated and deflated around my skating because nothing was working, because I hadn't been getting the lessons that I needed, and that was not my coach's fault. It wasn't my fault. It was just circumstances that were unavoidable. So my mindset around skating going into that skate was absolutely atrocious. It was not great. But one of the things that was said to me was, you're here for you. You're here to have fun. And when that music started, all of that disappeared, and all of that mental health training that I've done with my coach in Melbourne just kicked into gear. And it's like, okay, first element, done. Second element, done. That was my last. That got scored. That has never been scored in competition before. And I landed it and I've gone, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be scored. And then I did my camel spin. And it was the worst I've ever done in competition. And then I did my choreo sequence. And we changed it the day before. And I did it and it worked. And it was just that mindset of just not caring what the judges think and skating for myself and working from element to element just kicked in. I didn't even think about my body image at that point. It was just a case of have fun, feel the music. Have you listened to my music?
I don't think I have. No.
No, it's a song called Through It All by
Yeah.
who isn't a he's not huge. He got quite a bit of fame recently because he was mentioned in one of Taylor Swift's new songs. But the lyrics essentially, it's like, I've lived through everything, and if I don't wake up tomorrow, I don't care. It's I've been through it all, and it's, to me, this song was about my journey from being severely depressed with anxiety attacks every other day to coming out the other side nice and strong and powerful. And that's what I go into it thinking about. But this is the difference between Melbourne and Adelaide. So I come back to Adelaide the next week and I was self-conscious. I skated the worst I've skated in years. And I completely fell apart because it is a different environment here. I'm not sure if I've answered the question, but I'm trying to explain sort of.
No, that is perfectly fine. That's absolutely wild of a story. One, roller coaster of emotions. Um, but wow, it ended with it was so much inspiration and just so much like hope. And even like your song says, like even if you die tomorrow, like you're content with everything, which is kind of my outlook on on the afterlife as well, on death. So very cool that you opened up about that, and thank you so much for sharing that experience and kind of like taking us through what was going through your head and the actual events that were transpiring that week.
I mean,
Yeah.
I the one thing I remember the most from that week is I've had a lesson on the Friday night, and that's where I was in tears. And my coach in Melbourne's not physically on the ice at the moment, so she was standing at the barrier just hugging me, and she just hugged me until I'd cried it out. And I've got to the rink the next day. I've then gone out that night to the Harry Potter Forbidden Forest experience, and no, I don't care if I get hate for being a Harry Potter fan. I'm sorry, I'm
no
30.
hate here. No hate.
So I went out with friends that I stay with in Melbourne, and then I got to the rink the next day, and she sat me down and she's gone, just this week hasn't happened. You get out there and you skate for you. And I think that moment, I just needed to skate, and I knew what I was there to do, and that music started and it just happened.
Wow.
At last, I don't care. I'm so damn proud of the women that came first, second, and third. They're friends of mine who I adore.
Yeah.
So proud of them, and I'm so happy for them, and I would never take that away from them.
Aww. I'm so glad that that's how we're gonna end it, because I only have 2 more minutes on this call. But thank you so much for sharing all of your personal experience with us and just being here and having this open conversation with me. The entire point of this is just to give people that maybe don't have so much of a voice in the skating world, just kind of like giving them another platform to kind of share their thoughts and experiences. So thank you so much for that. My final question for you, if you can answer and like give a quick answer, is if you have any final advice for skaters who might be struggling with similar challenges that you have faced in your skating time.
Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. I am on the more introverted side, but when I do stand up for myself, it usually scares the crap out of people. So stand up for yourself. The worst thing that's going to happen is someone's not going to be your friend. And if they're not going to be your friend because you're going to set boundaries, they don't deserve to be your friend. They really, you deserve better in your world and in your life.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for that insight and for all of your inspiration and for your confidence and just being a badass boss lady out on the ice and out in competition. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope that Kirsty made just as much as an impression on you as she did on me during this chat. If you learned anything, definitely give me a comment on social media or DM me. I would love to hear from you. If you want to follow Kirsty, I will be leaving her social medias and other links in the description as well as on screen right now, as well as leaving my socials if you want to keep up with me and with this podcast series. That's all I have for you guys right now, and I'll maybe see you in the next one.